Everyone has those days where they just want to binge watch Netflix and eat away to their heart's desire. And then at the end of the day, you feel so unproductive and guilty that you enjoyed yourself.
Well, I'm here to tell you why you actually need those days. In the 21st century, it's so easy to get caught up in thinking that you always have to be going, and being innovative and coming up with the next big idea. But guess what? Not everyone is perfect. Actually, nobody's perfect. I'm looking at you. Let me tell you how doing nothing can actually be your most inspiring moment. In my experience of being an artist so far, and especially in my experience of being a college student, it's super easy just to get caught up in deadlines, your everyday schedule, while trying to maintain a social life, get a good night's sleep, live a somewhat healthy lifestyle, and still be creative. This is all just a recipe for getting very overwhelmed. I'm sure you can all relate. Now wait. This is not just a video for artists and creators, but anyone with a regular schedule and just a hard-working, kick-butt human. As you've probably seen on all social media platforms, everyone's always coming up with the next biggest idea, and you feel this pressure to create and just be coming up with the next biggest thing. And where's the time to be creative? I hate to break it to you guys, but if you're constantly trying to create the next biggest thing and never actually giving yourself a break, you're being less productive. So Anna, you're telling me to get inspired and be more creative that I actually need to do nothing? Yes, nothing. Doing nothing may sound weird to incorporate into your creative process, but it's actually necessary for you to be able to separate yourself from your work. And if you don't separate yourself from your work, you're likely susceptible to suffer from
creative burnout.
These are the events leading up to creative burnout. First, you let yourself get overloaded with projects and deadlines and any type of work, whether it pays or not. Then, you disappear. You remove yourself from any type of social situation because you just don't have the time for it. You have to just completely immerse yourself in your practice and perfect your craft. Then you start to dread it and think that you're a slave to your work. There's too many people that are expecting too much from you and it's their fault. They're putting these deadlines on you. And you don't want to admit that it's really your fault. This leads to you feeling lonely because again, you've removed any social aspect out of your life and you never get to see your friends anymore because you're spending those long hours in the studio or the office. And if you do ever have the chance to get to see your friends, you're way too mentally and physically drained to even think about having to hold a conversation with someone for more than 5 minutes. But there's no time to waste, no time for sitting down. You need to keep working. You need to be creative. I experienced creative burnout this past summer because I was going to school Monday through Thursday. I was working Thursday through Sunday, and then the days where I wasn't working, I was in the studio from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And any morning that I had free, I was definitely using it to sleep in. And yes, I accomplished a lot, but it had such a toll on me for the next 2 to 3 months that I completely shut down. When school ended, I decided to quit my job as well because I never gave myself a break, that I couldn't even think of having to go to work 4 days a week during the summer. I needed a break. So that's what I did. I quit. It wasn't until I started doing a whole lot of nothing that I realized that those are the moments I was most inspired. Completely separating myself from any type of work made me realize how much I actually appreciated working and what made me go that hard in the first place. Over the summer, I didn't have any access to a darkroom or a ceramic studio, which is where I had been spending those 15 hours a day, progressively working. And even though I loved those 15-hour work days, when I was able to step away from it, I realized that it was too heavy on my creative process to be able to actually get what I needed done. So it is actually essential to be able to separate yourself from your work and your regular routine and just take a break, that's right, to do nothing. Remember when you were a kid and just had the craziest ideas and everything inspired you and you were just like creative, ambitious? Well, it's because you didn't yet have all these heavy obligations, and the ideas that you came up with were able to breathe and bask in your mind instead of being forced out by a deadline. So when you do nothing, your mind will naturally relax and not feel the pressure to be the greatest innovator of all time. Some of my greatest ideas for projects have come from a full day of just laying in bed because my mind was able to wander and had the time and space that it doesn't have when it's constantly being interrupted by obligations and expectations. Do more nothing. That seems a little bit anti-productive for inspiration, doesn't it? well, actually constantly trying to get inspired and create the next biggest thing is more anti-productive than doing nothing. So I speak from a lot of personal experience when it comes to doing nothing, but you need time to separate yourself from your artistic and creative work and just live with that work and let it be, and then return to it later on in order to see how you can move forward. One of my most inspirational professors so far gave me a great word of advice: just live with your work. Now, I don't mean live with your work by constantly doing your work, but let your work live with you outside of the work environment itself. Now, this relates more to artists and musicians and creatives more than it does to just like a regular 9-to-5 job, but I'm sure you can find some way to incorporate it. Whenever I have days set aside to do absolutely nothing, I make sure that some of my photographs are hung on the wall and some of my ceramic pieces are laid out so that whenever my mind drifts and my eyes land on those pieces, that I begin to see them from an outside perspective and not something meticulously trying to critique it and perfect. And by doing this, it allows you to see your work as your audience does. So then you get to have like this perspective of when someone is coming and approaching your work and your product, how they're viewing it. Because sometimes we can be super critical on ourselves, which of course is a good thing. Always push yourself to your limits, but know when to step back and you need a break, because you got to be wary of that creative burnout. Creative burnout is the worst. Do more nothing to avoid it. And if doing nothing drives you absolutely crazy and you just can't sit still, then go for a walk around your neighborhood. Personally, I like to walk around neighborhoods at around golden hour because I get super inspired for future work, and even though I'm not going out and seeking inspiration, all of these ideas start flowing in. But at the same time, I'm allowing myself to step back away from working and just enjoy the moment. So doing nothing doesn't exactly mean committing yourself all day to your bed, but do more little nothings in between throughout your day. Like when you're waiting to cross the street, don't stand there on your phone feeding yourself more information that's really just pointless, but stop and stand there and be present of the moment that you're currently in. Don't be trying to like fly to India through Instagram and all of that Twitter nonsense. Don't even get me started. Those are just words that you really don't need to read while you're trying to avoid social contact with other people. I'm not pushing you to talk to those people, but just observe what they're doing. Like, you never know when you're gonna get inspiration, what flicker of a hand move that someone's gonna do, and you're just gonna be like, wow, I'm gonna paint that shit. Go to a coffee shop with no screens, no cell phone, no laptop, no tablet. Just sit there and hold your coffee or your tea, whatever you please, and observe what's happening around you. Challenge yourself to charge all of your senses. Watch them pour that coffee, smell it as it's being poured, listen to the blender going off, listen to the espresso machine as it drips every drop of intoxicating caffeine, and then taste it. And even though that action is doing something, are you really doing that much? It classifies as doing nothing. By doing nothing, I really mean like taking yourself away from work and just doing what you would usually see as unproductive, but in the end, that is what's going to help you progress the most. And if you can't find time to set aside one full day or a few hours a few times a week for absolutely nothing, then that is your core problem. And just reassess what's actually necessary toward your progression, if it's even your responsibility, and if it's an obligation, how it can be negotiated to be more beneficial towards your goals and your overall well-being. Creative burnout sucks, but it can easily be avoided by just taking a few hours a week to just focus on the nothingness around your existence. That's some Rick and Morty stuff right there. In my photo studio class right now, we're reading this book called Productivity for Creative People by Mark McGinnis. And I tell you, this book is helpful for literally anyone. Even if you're not creative, which that's another video, everyone is creative, but it just gives you tips on how to be more productive, and it touches on what I talked about today, doing more nothing. I've left a link down in the description below to this Amazon Kindle download. It's only $4. I would check it out if I were you. Super easy read and amazing advice if you would like to be more productive in your time on this world. Don't we all want to be productive? Productivity, it's all subjective. What does it mean? Are we all working towards something? Or are we just dying? A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If it wasn't, please leave a comment down below and ask any questions that you would like me to further elaborate into. I encourage you all to keep creating, but don't forget to take a break from it and do a little bit of nothing and still stay reckless. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe if you wanna. I'm not forcing anything, but do it. He always looks so disinterested, but I swear that he's like the most active cat ever. I think it's this lighting. He just like shuts off. But yeah, thanks for watching and we will see you guys later this week. No, nothing.